until you become a business owner that has staff, you never quite understand what it's like when a staff member leaves and a clientele goes with them.
And who is going to be the next person that has to come in and fill that person's shoes when they were a huge part of the family?
It's a superpower because I really genuinely care so much, but it's really painful and it takes a long time, especially when you're a business owner that is so passionate about your business and being in it.
You started sliding into someone's DMs before we'd officially broken up.
I
thought things were going okay. And you were secretly swiping right on Tinder. Or I don't know which way you swipe, guys. I really don't.
Main union is healthy connection within a safe space for salon owners. I really, really, really want people to come into wherever the space. And I'm not talking, I love these big events that are happening, but there are so many people, including myself, that I think a lot of hairdressers and owners, we are introverted extroverts, extroverted introverts.
But you walk in here, you're getting the sparkliest version, the kindest, sparkliest, outgoing person you'll meet. You talk to me in a place that is not here, and I look like a Bambi. I'm like,
it's the bond, the connection, the rapport that you have with these people. They're family.
You build staff that are friends, so you watch friends leave. And in the back of your mind, there is a failure point in that. I failed that person. I failed that client. I failed. And that noise can get really loud.
Hey, lovers, just a quick one. If you listen to us and you love us, could you please hit that subscribe button? I know it's a pain, but that little button means the world to us and our podcast and means that we can get more great guests on like we know you guys love listening to. So do a girl a favor, hit subscribe, and we would be so grateful. Welcome back to the Inner Sanctum Salon Rising, the podcast. Do you know what I've just realized?
But the podcast, you say it with a certain voice every time.
I forgot to say the Inner Sanctum on our last podcast. I just said, welcome back to Salon Rising, the podcast.
Oh,
well, that's okay.
Everyone will not listen now because how rude.
Oh, yeah. I was like, no. Anyway.
Bitch, what a terrible podcast. Also, if you guys like us, please make sure that you
subscribe,
like, share, subscribe. I don't know, whatever that is, because we don't often mention that. But also we could handle a little bit of love in our inbox or our Google. Feel free to head over there and give us some love, because sometimes we need to make sure we're doing the right job.
You just showed really clearly that you don't listen back to our podcast, because at the beginning of every podcast we say, hey guys, if you like what we do.
I don't listen to any of our podcasts.
But what Samara is saying is, for words of affirmation,
I listen to none of our podcasts, babe.
I
am
like
in it, so I can't.
You don't
cannot handle listening to my own voice back. I'm very sorry you guys have to listen to it in the first place.
But please do. And clearly there's a little bit of words of affirmation feedback required here. So if someone could slide into the DMs.
If we had a big meeting this morning regarding the podcast and guests and stuff. So like
the types of stories,
if there's someone you want on here, please get in touch, because sometimes it's like we're hoping that we're giving you guys what you want. But if there's someone you want to see on here, or stories you want to hear, or advice you want, like that,
specific struggles that you'd like to hear stuff about, that would be great.
Because then we can build the podcast around what you guys want, rather than just winging it and hoping you like what we're doing. You like it because you're listening, but if you have advice for us in a really great way that doesn't make me feel terrible, please get in touch.
If it's any form of criticism, just send it to my DMs.
Otherwise, I'll burn this podcast to the ground.
Now, speaking of special guests and having people on, we are joined by Amy from Main Union, and I'm going to Bhava Salon. I got it right. See? Yay. In my head, I'm like, say it like guava. Say it like guava. So Amy, we sort of crossed paths at an education event we were at where you were speaking about Main Union. And I was like, that is a really, really cool concept. Centers around community, which I think we're going to talk about more anyway. So I'm not going to go into too much of that. But let's have a little chat. because I love, obviously our connection came from someone in Osdare that we know who's really great as well. And I just love the way that, shout out to you, Lisa.
I was like, who are we talking about? Yes.
Lisa really
Love you, Lisa.
advocates for the people that she's passionate about.
She really does.
Outside of her circle, you know, like she, and I think it's something that's really special about how she goes out there. You know, it's not about her making any gains. She just wants everybody to know about the cool things that the people she's involved with are doing. And that's what it was like with you, and talking about that initial part of your journey and just starting your salon and moving to a new town, starting a salon, being like, cool, I know no one and I have no clients.
Literally
Let's do this.
shitting my pants.
So let's start with a little bit of that backstory. Let's go, okay, so you moved to Brisbane. Where did you move from?
So we moved from New South Wales.
Yes.
So southwest Sydney, from a little town called Camden, which, you know, it's not so tiny now, but still, to put it into relation to Brisbane, for example, it was 80 kilometres out of Sydney. So, you know,
okay,
quite regional in comparison. Yeah. So lots of people know each other. You have your real hub, you have your community, you have your connection. It's really, really homely. I was born in Brisbane, but then moved down there. So pretty much had all of my teenage and adult life. So I started establishing my career down there, again, in such a beautiful place where everyone knows everyone, you know.
And then, so what made the move, what made you guys move up here?
Lifestyle, like everyone, right? So we came up here, not with the intention originally to open a salon, but with the intention, I worked for another beautiful salon in New South Wales that I helped manage. We had been planning the move for quite a while. So I guess so this is in 2020. And before COVID really like kicked off, I guess, it was all happening, but no one knew to what extent, right? So we said, yeah, we're just going to move for this reason of lifestyle. My family is up here. I have one sibling left in New South Wales who we visit quite often still. But I had spoken to the girls that I was managing the salon for in New South Wales, and I said they wanted to expand. They had some, you know, logistical nightmares of opening a new salon. And I said, what about Brisbane? COVID didn't seem to be affecting it too much. It's a growing city. Everyone still calls it, you know, the big country town, but really, is it anymore? The same as the Gold Coast, right?
Oh, it's so not anymore.
Boomed.
Yeah, Brisbane is a big city now.
Yeah. So I started looking into what the clientele would look like, what were the demographics, what sort of areas that we wanted to move into, because for the last 10 years I'd been managing salons. So that was really my niche. I really loved doing that. I had no intention of opening a salon. Moved up. Literally, my then partner, now husband, said to me, he called me and he, you know, worked in the city, and he's like, you need to pack all the shit into the garage and we need to leave. And I was like, oh, you're so dramatic. It's fine. So this is now in August of 2020. Thank God that I listened to him, because literally the day before the borders were closing, we were crossing over.
Really?
And I was like, whew, that was a wild ride. Like, okay, we made it over. Like, it was just absolutely nuts. So from the get-go of moving to Queensland, it was an absolute wild card. Moved in to my mum's home in Brisbane, so Bayside Brisbane, loved that. Then we had quite a while of, I guess, trying to have the problem of trades. Setting up the salon, we found a location in Tenerife, which is still where I am now.
So at this point, are you still setting up a salon for the people that you were working for?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And because there was JobKeeper and there was a lot of these, I guess, government incentives, would you say? Then that was what was able to keep us going, and I was still being able to be employed by them. We're really handy. My husband's an electrician, and we really DIY. So I said, we've got this. You know, I knew quite a few people in Brisbane that were trades to help, you know, like renderers and things. So we got in there. We had 4 months, I'm going to say. So in November, we pretty much opened the salon in Tenerife for the girls in Sydney. And that was phenomenal. However, it was just myself. And the borders had closed, and they'd only been able to come up once. Mm-hmm. And as you both can appreciate, and I could totally appreciate, finances, funding 2 salons.
Mhm.
Sydney had really locked down and
Yeah.
they were in such a, state of uncertainty, not being able to physically see what they're funding as well. There's a lot of problems here. Communication, it's okay, but you really need to be there to see, to feel that motivation. So I was there for another 12 months and we were just trying to grow and grow and grow. In that time, the girls in New South Wales had actually moved 2 shops down and totally made, upscaled. So their salon looked absolutely incredible because that was always in the works. They were in a smaller shopping centre. But again, it's expensive, right? Plus, you have a Brisbane salon that you haven't been able to travel to
see that you don't have that connection with. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, like exactly what we're talking, what we will go on to talk about is that connection. And to what you were saying in the introduction of this connection, don't be scared to reach out to people, let us know what you want to hear. So, there's all of those sort of things with being an interstate businesses. On paper, it was phenomenal. Like you could look at this and go tick, 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 Brisbane ticked all the boxes. But when you physically can't come here to see and feel what you're investing into, it makes it really difficult. I am a team girl. I do not do well working solo. I definitely kudos to the freelancers out there. Kudos to the mums that are working from their homes because, it suits their lifestyles and it works, and that's what they've had to do to make it work, because I think it's incredibly difficult to not have human connection. It's really hard and it's lonely. Like it's lonely at the best of times, right?
What made you, I'm looking at this from me being an owner, and I'm like, I love the fact that you were so behind the people that you work for, that you were like, I'm going to move to a city. I'm going to build their help pretty much build their salon, build it, work in it, and still just run it for them.
Yeah.
Even though you could have done all of that yourself. I think that's so honorable.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do I find people like you? That's phenomenal. That you were like, I'm going to do all of these things, but I'm still going to do it for you guys. I think that's a really special quality.
Yeah. I think that I just love hairdressing is not a job for me.
Yeah.
It's almost a hobby.
Yeah.
So to be able to then come in and help the business side of things, that was my ability to be able to help them. And I love them. They're amazing. I worked with them for 5 years, and before that I had managed a salon for the best part of 10 years.
Yeah.
And that salon had taught me so much. They were in, I guess, kind of close to Western Sydney, so very diverse, multicultural area. And so I guess I had learnt all of the above from that first salon, and then I just moved closer to home.
Yep.
And it's the bond, the connection, the rapport that you have with these people. They're family.
Yeah.
And so I guess, that's why I was like, you know what? I can see how this is Brisbane, is going to tick all the boxes. It can work.
Yeah.
It was just unfortunate the fact that COVID.
Yeah.
Okay.
C word.
So what happened?
So I felt really, really stagnant, and I was just getting in my own head, and I'd been trying to explain this to them. There's only so much you can communicate with that, again, being in different states, and they had so much fucking shit going on in New South Wales. They'd just opened this 100, they'd gone from 40 square metres to the best part of 100 square metres in the same shopping centre, which again is a small shopping centre. In amongst, there was a lot of changes within that whole suburb as well. It was crazy. They had a lot going on. And I said to them,
did you feel a little bit like you're getting left behind? Just that sort of out on the shelf
that's
up
it.
there?
It was just like, oh, Amy's amazing. She'll be fine. Not, blowing my own trumpet. But it's like they had the trust there that it was fine. And again, because I was communicating with them, and I was like, probably like a nagging child, don't forget about me. I miss you.
Words of affirmation. Please write me a review. Tell me I'm great.
Don't leave me behind.
Yeah.
So I think because there was that, and they knew my personality. They knew that I would be okay. But I guess the part that a lot of people don't know about me is that I'm okay until I'm not, which I think is like a lot of us.
Yep.
And it's important, again, going back to what you were saying earlier, you need to speak, we need to communicate, we need the connection, we need the rapport. When you're sat in the salon by yourself, just like listening to my own voice and talking the ears off of the clients that, you know, again, you know what it's like having a one-on-one constantly. It's really hard.
Yeah.
And at this point too, for a huge chunk of that, I was living with my family because we still had tenants in our property, which was absolutely incredible. But again, it's difficult because even though I managed the salon, I didn't own it. But you still, when you're managing that heavily, you are invested financially too. So I started putting up Facebook ads and Instagram ads out of my own pocket because I wanted to get busy. I was like, I can't do this. So that's when it came to the point of I reached out and said, I love you guys, but I actually can't do this mentally, physically, like I'm done. I'm tapped out. I think that because, again, I knew how much it cost to actually build the salon. I knew how many clients had come through. I had done all the research into this. And I'm not saying this like me, I've done this, I've done that. But I had brought a lot to the table in regards to knowing the behind the scenes that sometimes another staff member or a team member wouldn't have a clue because I guess it's not really that interesting in a team member's mind.
I think there's a lot of managers that wouldn't have a clue on some of those things, you know? Like I think there's a lot of managers that aren't as invested as what you're saying.
Yeah. So, you know, for me, I knew that there's no way that I would be willing to offer them the amount of money that they would have needed to be able to recoup that 18 months essentially of costs. You still have to pay rent. You still had to pay my wage. We had an apprentice. There's all that behind the scenes things that go into it. It's not just like opening a salon. I was willing to say, okay, here's the money to open it for what it costs to build a salon. But everything else, no, like that, you have to take that as a loss. So I understood, and in my head, I already was prepared for them to say no because if I owned that salon, I would have said no. So rather than just leaving it there and walking away, I said, how about you sell your fit out and sell the lease? Pass this on to someone else. If you advertise that, it's not like that new person is coming in and taking your name. Your name is your business name. You can leave that. And I said, I will be okay. I will walk away. Are you fine with if I choose to open a salon, which I honestly still had no intention of doing. It was the most ridiculously quick decision. Or I could go manage another salon. There's so many salons in Brisbane that are reaching out for people or needing people. They might not have even known that they needed me. So, yeah, I said, I will be fine. Don't think about this from my perspective. All I know is for my own sanity, I need to leave this.
Yep.
So
at that point you were thinking I would sell it for what it costs them to build, but they obviously wanted to sell it higher, so it recouped how much it's lost them. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. And again, they had the cost from building the New South Wales salon and you know, plus. So I was prepared mentally.
So what you were prepared to pay they needed more.
They needed more.
Okay.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And I knew that already because I'd already crunched the numbers. But I didn't really know what I was going to do next.
Did they sell?
Yeah, so they ended up selling to a beautiful man called Alfie. Yeah. And he took it over, and that refurb was like my baby. Oh my God. And the girls in New South Wales were absolutely phenomenal. They literally said, I don't mind what you do. We want track lighting. And again, my husband being an electrician, he was just like, great. And then, you know, floor leaning arch mirrors. Everything else, I literally got to choose.
Yeah, cool.
It was the sickest, craziest time
ever. Did Alfie keep all of that, or did it?
Yes.
Yes, that's nice.
Did move my front desk, but it's okay.
Me, I just did that.
So is he still there?
Yeah, he's still there. And, you know, again, with the connection, I recommend so many of my clients. Like, so Alfie does a lot of the digital perms. He does a lot of those really cool things that I have no fucking idea. Yeah. And, you know, it's not my clientele, but when my clientele asks or they're like, I know where I can send you for that. And it just so happens that when we were talking about selling and I was going to move on, I thought, I'm just going to have a sticky beak. I'm going to just see what's around. Literally 400 meters up the road, there was a salon that had just become available. I was like, fuck off. this is nuts.
For what you could spend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even, thank God. Again, it was like whoever is up there looking after us just waved their magic wand and was like, here you go. Didn't have to take a business loan, didn't have to do anything of that. The salon, it wasn't perfect to start with. And only just now, actually, in a couple of months, we're going to go through and do like a refurb, which is 3.5 years later. But I was so lucky that we could get in there. So in the space of 10 days.
Oh, wow.
I literally was like, paint. My husband got in, changed the lighting, kept the basins, everything as is. But like you've said on a previous podcast, you just get in
and just do it. Yeah.
You just do it.
So
Yeah.
for
Shout
you
out,
at that
Bridget.
point, it was like, I can't do this for someone else.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was me and my blood, sweat and tears,
Mm-hmm.
I can do this.
Partially.
So, yeah.
Because still in my brain, and I come from a family of tradies, and, not being sexist or anything like that, but particularly the male trades that in my family, they had not really dealt with their finances that well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where the perspective of owning something really scared me.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really made me nervous. I am not
We just spoke about
risk adverse.
terrible with their finances.
Oh my
I feel
God,
like
yes.
if you have a tradie boyfriend or a husband, just like get them to listen to this podcast. We do like Rising Finances Tradie Edition because honestly, it works.
You should.
Well, it's applicable.
Mm,
If anyone's
absolutely.
if anyone's listening and their partner is a tradesperson, you don't have to be in the hair and beauty industry for the finance program to be relevant to your business.
No, I do it with my
Shameless
partners.
little
Yeah.
plug there, but
I
it's
do it with
true.
my partner. But the thing is they've got to want it. I
Yeah.
think the hard thing is like, I have Rising Finances, my partner to a point, but they've got to actually want to. It's like when you guys when you're like finally like, I'm going to do this. You've got to do it and know that you're going to do it and implement it in all ways. Otherwise, don't do it. Like if you're going to, it's like we've said many times, like a gym membership. You can't buy a gym membership and be thin. You have to go to the gym or get fit. You have to go to the gym to get fit. You can't just buy the gym membership. So you've got to do it and make sure that you're doing it and you're passionate about it. And then you'll put everything into it and you'll see the change.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to want these things, right? Which is super interesting in this whole weird headspace that I was in because everyone else was behind me. My brother has his own pressure washing business in New South Wales, but he is just incredibly into it, which makes sense, right? So he's like, you can do this. And all I'd had was listening to, again, like my family, the male trades, just – when they just take on jobs everywhere because they're so panicked that they're not going to get that next job. And our industry, I guess it could be the same if we ran it that way. But I think that we haven't. And I don't even know the real answer to that as to why we don't. But evolution has made it that way, that we have appointments. It's quite consistent, X, Y, Z. So everyone was like, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And I say now that I feel like I almost got bullied into opening the salon. I was like, fine, I will do it.
You were like standing on the edge and everyone's just like, we'll just
literally
just push her over.
Yeah.
Just give her a little nudge.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they didn't offer to pay for a nose job. No. So I did it, and that 10-day turnaround, and then we opened the salon, and I literally had boxes in the salon as clients were coming in. I feel so, so, so lucky that I was able to take those clients.
That's what I was going to say. Were you able to take those clients across from, because it was so close? Yeah. Okay, so that's really good. So I didn't realize, so you built that other business from scratch, but when you actually went into yours, you had that sort of foundation that you were able to take into it.
Yep. So that's I had 18 months of, and it wasn't one of those things. I truly believe you can't steal people. And even I have a really interesting, which, could be another whole conversation of my onboarding and offboarding processes. You can't steal people. I think it's super, and I think this is where my passion for human connection and rapport comes in, that just tell people where you're going because they're going to find out. And as a manager, and then I thought, okay, I'm going to be an owner. I don't want to be written off as the evil, the evil sister, or the one that like, you can't have this and you can't have this and I don't know where they've gone and blah, blah, blah. And I totally understand why there are contracts in place to protect businesses, because history tells many tales, right? Of awful, awful situations. But I have a smaller team, so it's controllable. And I have expanded my team and now brought it back down again. So, yeah.
I feel like this is a real trend actually in the industry at the moment, bringing your team back down.
Oh, yeah. Well, like you said.
I have many thoughts on this, but I don't, like, when you're like running through your head, like I've been a business owner now for 15 years. And, it's always, I think, until you become a business owner that has staff, you never quite understand what it's like when a staff member leaves and a clientele goes with them.
Absolutely.
Right? Because I was talking about this the other day with my partner, and when a staff member leaves, sometimes the way, like, and especially when you are an owner that is very passionate about your people and what you would create, it very much feels like you are the one that's being broken up with, and you're sitting at home listening to Celine Dion and, you've got to rebuild the pieces, and that person leaves and they're like, I love my life. Everything is so much better. Everything's so good. Look, and you're like, when I was young, and I explained this once to actually one of my team members who left, who was with me for a really long time. And she was like, I never actually thought about it like that. But then you also watch people leave your business that you spent so much time making sure that your business could grow and could bring these people in. Like, they're in your business because you did that, and you understand that they were serviced by the people that obviously you paid to look after them. But then every time that happens too, we've just spoken about at the beginning that I cannot deal with criticism because and I think it's a superpower because I really generally care so much, but it's really painful.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time, especially when you're a business owner that is so passionate about your business and being in it. It takes a lot of time to be okay with the fact that people are going to leave, and that's fine. But it's been an interesting evolvement to be okay with it. And then there's certain things that really hurt as well. And that it's not when people leave and when they start their own journeys and stuff, it's never with contempt. But the hard thing about it is when people do leave, there is generally a lot of secrecy behind it for them to set themselves up, which you understand. But again, it's like you're the boyfriend that's being cheated on, or the girlfriend that's being cheated on, because all of it is behind the scenes.
You started sliding into someone's DMs before
Yep.
we'd officially broken up.
Yep.
I thought things were going okay.
Yep.
And you were secretly swiping right on Tinder or left. I don't know which way you swipe, guys. I really don't.
Yep.
But
so it's an interesting thing that you brought up because it is. And then it's not just with clients. It can be with friends because you build clientele that are friends. You build staff that are friends. So you watch friends leave. And in the back of your mind, there is a failure point in that. I failed that person. I failed that client. I failed. And that noise can get really loud. Like, I think this is the important part of making sure as business owners, especially, and I'm just about to go back to therapy, that we have therapists, we have psychologists, we have mental health plans that help with that, because it's really it can be really tough. Like, and you'll go through seasons where it won't feel so tough, and seasons that it will be really tough, and you'll be questioning everything about yourself. And I think that it's really important to have that talk therapy with somebody that's outside of your business and be okay with that, because I still go through, I had a really anxious week last week, and it's just you getting in your head and you deciding all of this noise and stuff like that. And as a business owner, it can be really tough.
Yeah.
So, even though, yes, we absolutely do not own clients, I completely agree with that. It's a really hard lesson to take when you also know that inside your business, you need to make a certain amount in order to survive and for your team to be able to survive. So when someone walks away and can take a big chunk of that, that also feels rough. So there's all the emotional side behind, how it makes you feel, the fact that you're the one that's being broken up with, and you can watch people go out and you're like, I'm real happy for you, but also I'm just like this boyfriend that's just like, I love you. What did I do wrong? And also on the other side of that, the terrifying, is my business going to be okay?
Yeah.
And at all times my business has been, but it doesn't make you not question it at each and every time.
The uncertainty
Yeah.
of the future.
Yeah.
And who is going to be the next person that has to come in and fill that
Mhm.
person's shoes when they were a huge part of the family?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Interesting enough, though, or interestingly enough, I should say, what I've found the psychology behind this is when I have asked, not told.
Mhm.
So I just want to make a really strong point of this, that I, again, have very open discussions with my team. And I say to them, look, as a part of our offboarding process now, yes, you've given me a notice, whether they're freelancers or whether they're full-time team members, we still have a very similar policies and procedures with offboarding, because they're just, when I've had freelancers, they've still used my booking system. They've still used my products. They've still used our salons. So it's still quite, I don't know, what would you say? Like the word.
It's intertwined.
It's intertwined. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
And I don't disagree. I had a client actually yesterday inquire about a staff member that's left, and I was just like, oh, look, I'm really sorry that they're no longer with our team. And they were like, has she gone to another salon? I was like, this is her name.
Yep.
Please feel free to reach out to her on Instagram, because I'm never going to be the person exactly like that that's going to be like, no, don't know where they are. Would never, ever do that. And I think how you do that with people and how, I think it's a really important part, even if
I think it's even an important part for the clients, because because they'll remember that. And if at some point they can't get back in with that person, or they'll be like, oh, that's right, these guys were so good about, like, let me just see if they can. Yeah.
I cannot tell
We've had
you.
that a lot of the time. Yeah, we've had a lot as well. We've
It's
had
incredible.
a lot.
They respect you. The level of respect from your clients, because they go, okay.
I think the
cool.
thing is, though, is 95% of people ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
95% of people ghost. 95% of people just like, I'll get back in contact, and you never hear them from again. Or people don't want to have the uncomfortable conversations, and being in business for this long, I can see it. Like, people don't want to have the conversation of like, hey. And I think the avoidance is easier, right? I'll just disappear into the background, and then one day we'll have to have this awkward conversation of being like, hey friend, where have you been? Other people do. And I think for us as I think having salons, it is really nice when someone does reach out and say like, I've loved my experience with you. Thank you so much for taking care of me. I'm going to follow this stylist. And you're like, cool.
Yeah.
That's okay. Like, thank you so much. I'm always here, but it doesn't happen.
I heard this really interesting podcast about this the other day, though, and it was super upfront. The therapist that they had on to talk about this, and it was really cool, because she's like, it's not your business. She's like, it's none of your business why that person doesn't want to come. It's like, whoa, okay. She's like, why do you think that you should know that? It's not your business. Like, but I've never heard it from that opposite.
I've said a few times before that when I get out a check, I have to remember this is a business.
Yeah.
I think for us in this industry, it's so personal.
Yeah.
Like, they become friends. It is friends. You have friends sitting in your chair, and then your friends smoke bomb you. Like, it is friends sitting in your chair. You go through everything with them. It's like, so, but I do absolutely go at times, this is a business. They don't owe me anything. They pay me to come to this business. If that's so, that has been that's been a massive, like, they pay me to come here. It's not the other way around.
Yeah.
They can choose to do whatever you want. So absolutely. I think the hard thing is in this industry, it is so personal, because they become friends, or they are friends.
Yeah.
It's not just like, Mary Jew I don't know why that name came on. It's not like, I was going to say
Interesting
Mary
choice.
Jo, but I was like, who's going to say Mary Jo? So I said Mary Jew. No one has the name Mary Jew, but if your name is Mary Jew, welcome. I think that it is because, it's not just the random clients, it's the ones that you have developed this massive relationship with. And again, you're still providing them a service, but it's those ones that you're like, you will constantly, why?
Yeah.
What did I not do? And especially because we are generally like quite emotional creatures, us as hairdressers and women.
Absolutely.
So then it's like that background
So
noise.
exactly what you were saying with the avoidance.
Mm.
So when I ask the team members to say, look, the salon phone is there. Could you please reach out to your clients? Let's block you off for the next 2 weeks as soon as they've given me their notice. There's no point. I don't need you to take on new clients. But what I do need you to focus on is connecting via the salon phone, whether it's text, whether it's a phone call, and just letting them know. It is up to you how much you let those people know, because exactly what you were saying, Jenna, about the therapist saying it's none of the business as to why people will leave, regardless of whether it's a stylist or whether it's a client, right? It's a personal thing. This is a business. I'm just letting you know. So I said that I put the ball in their court and say, this is your choice. It's your choice to let them know as much as you would like to let them know. Again, with the communication and the rapport that you have with certain guests, that's up to you. How much you go into it, how comfortable do you feel? That's not up to me. But I do ask that it's done through the salon phone, and I do ask that by the end of the 2 weeks, you close off the rest of your books. I will go through and cross-check them, check in and make sure that everything's going okay along the way. I'm still on the floor doing my thing. I'm behind the business, doing that stuff as well. But do you know how many times that we've realized that probably about a good 20% of the clients turn up to the next appointment, they've been moved as a part of the offboarding process, and I've been told that, yeah, everyone's contacted. And I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Go back and check the fucking log,
Yeah.
the phone and the text, like, come on, this is where trust is involved, right? Not micromanaging. But then the guests turn up to their new stylist, and the stylist has been told that, yep, this client knows. And they say, oh, hi, I'm blah, blah, blah. I'll be doing your hair today. And the client goes, what? And so avoidance is exactly how you were saying. It's easier. And you think, wow, you give them the freedom of choice to how they can tell people in what space over the 2 weeks they can tell the clients that they're leaving, and still they go boom. And it's easier just to leave it all to someone else. So I guess there's a no-win situation, right? In regards to, I can see why some salons just go, no, don't touch the phone, don't touch the books. We'll do it all. But I still like that connection. And again, it's such a passionate.
I think it depends on who it's with. Like,
and
I had
the situation, right?
Absolutely.
I had different team leave last year for different scenarios. I had like 3 of them move out of state. And, it depends on who it was. On some, I had a staff member who had a big clientele when she came. So, of course, I was like, I understand you taking them, get in touch with them, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And I will message the rest and have, again, a really well-planned, thought-out message to make the client still feel seen and heard, but also we understood either way. And then I had a stylist that we actually, sat and went through her books together. And we're like, she was like, that one's fine, move that one over, put that one here. But we contacted them. And then it was kind of like, whoever you take, you take. But it's also hard because you are, as the leader of the team, you're also showing the rest of the team what's going to happen. And you also have to be very careful with
Lead
that.
by example.
Because at the end of the day, you don't want that to happen over and over and over again, so that it depletes and depletes and depletes, and every time you have to rebuild. So you've also got to be very cautious of how that looks, because you're not going to want to give everyone's clientele away every time.
And I think there's this misconception that if you just have freelancers, that's not going to happen, and it really does still impact a business. You know what I mean?
It's so funny. Yeah, you could say that.
I don't know where that sort of came from, that there's so many people who think the model is to just have freelancers to not have that happen. It still does.
It's so funny that you say that, because when I started the business, I was like, fine, I will start this business and it's just going to be me and my assistant and freelancers, because they'll be their own boss. Fucking joke. What a stupid concept, right? Because exactly what you say, these people still work in a suite or, amongst people, because they still want connection. And it's never going to be as simple as saying, okay, well, you do your thing and I'll be over here just to have a good chin wag, If you want a coffee and going down the road, never going to be that simple, particularly when you're the one that owns the space and owns the business, I should say. So, yeah, very quickly learned. Plus revenue, man. Like, this is business, right?
Yeah.
So all of these, I guess, bumps in the road, they taught me that I actually really do enjoy running a business and owning the business and leading by example and creating policies and procedures to grow a team where it works and to have their feedback as well. So in turn, as we were saying before, if a team member leaves, then we regroup afterwards. We say, okay, so how do we feel about this? What can we improve out of this situation? As the owner, this is how I feel. This is how I believe it went. Then the staff will have their input as well. Of course, when this is first happening, not that we want a lot of people to leave, but like you say, every circumstance is going to be different, right? The team opens up and becomes more comfortable to speak more openly because we're creating a safe space. So all of these things happening is exactly what led me, I guess, to, really love having the business and having the salon, and really love going from saying, okay, I've just got a skill set that I know that I'm good at. I know that I'm good at building rapport. I love the connection, like human connection. I love Enneagrams and disc profiling. So really strong studies on human behaviors. So I'm really enjoying this more, which is how Main Union evolved. Yes. It blossomed.
So explain what Main Union is. So Main as in MANE, like the mane of hair.
So
Bhava like guava.
Oh, Jen.
Whatever makes it stick. So Main Union, I was going to say fucking guava. What did we do? Main Union is healthy connection within a safe space for salon owners. I really, really, really want people to come into wherever the space, and I'm not talking, I love these big events that are happening, but there are so many people, including myself, that I think a lot of hairdressers and owners, we are introverted extroverts,
100%.
extroverted introverts.
100%.
Like we are done at the end of the day. There is a huge disassociation happening. When we walk out the door, we're like,
Yeah.
leave me alone.
Nobody
I'm
talk to me.
so
Leave me
extroverted.
alone. Yeah. And then you're tired. You're so tired.
Yeah.
When
And then
people
you're
talk
just
to me, I'm like, please stop talking to me. I'm really uncomfortable. We did that yesterday. We tried a new church, and I was like, afterwards, I was like, I'm never going there again.
Yeah.
People saw new people and flocked to us, and by the end, I was like, get me out of here. Take me back to my church that's dark and no one speaks to me unless I want them to speak to me.
Yeah.
Like it's a real thing. And it seems so silly because
We talk to people all day, every day, but it's
my job, I know.
different.
But you walk in here, you're getting the sparkliest version, the kindest, sparkliest, outgoing person you'll meet. You talk to me in a place that is not here, and I look like a Bambi. I'm like,
Me. Literally.
I'm so awkward. I don't know what to say.
Yep.
Find me a friend that I can like stick to, and then I'll be all right.
Literally me. But why do we do that in our spaces? Because we've created a safe space. This is our safe space. This is our sanctuary. We control what's going on within these walls, and our team is all happy and healthy. The clients are happy and healthy. They choose to come in here because they feel good, which is exactly what I want to create with Main Union. I love these big events, but it scares the fuck out of me. Thank you, Lisa. Again, shout out. He said, come up on stage and, have 5 minutes. Oh my God, there was so much sweat coming out of my body. Like, it was insane, but I did it. And people are, well, Jen, you saw it and you're like, oh, this is cool. And connections started happening. I don't need, and I don't particularly want Main Union to start off being a 300 people event. I would love a coffee catch-ups with 10 people. I would love just a little bit of connection, because there's huge amount of times where we walk into these spaces, particularly when there's really well-known guests.
Yeah. And you just want to know one person's face.
Yeah.
Like they're just one
It's
person I'm
intimidating.
going to know here.
It's
Mate,
really
Me
intimidating.
at church, I found a client, I found one of my clients who's become a friend of mine, and I was like, I didn't know you were here. Why are you here? Because she normally goes to my church. She was like, I just decided I needed to come today, and I was like, that's because he's like, she's going to be freaked out.
Yeah.
I'm going to need a friend. And Ton, I love you. Thank you for letting me hold on to you until I could escape.
There's an SOS on
Yeah.
your head.
Yeah. Help. Yep.
But this
So
is exactly why.
Do you find so that's that you're looking at creating those informal chats, like those
Yes.
informal catch ups. Now, this is purely my opinion.
Mhm.
I feel like the beauty industry, as opposed to the hair industry, is way better at rocking up to these things.
They're way better.
I feel like
They're
they actually
accountable.
turn up
They all do.
to
They all
these
wanna hang
things.
out.
And I can't tell you the number of people that I speak to. They're like, we just need connection. We just need more connection. It's like, why aren't you coming to the things then?
Do you want to know what my theory is?
Yes.
It's because the beauticians are so peaceful and graceful and elegant and quietly spoken. And they don't spend their whole day throwing the sparkles over everyone's head, right? And doing all that stuff. So they probably are in a different headspace. I'm sure they have so many of their own stresses going, on. But yeah, maybe it's the different energy that we present, and we feel somehow obliged to present. When I walked in today and I said, oh my God, in my head, what an amazing cards that say, this is, I'm here for ultimate healing and grounding. And, this is my energy that I'm putting out today. I'd had like a silent appointment. I think that is so incredible, because then you're allowing that. We used to have magazines, right, back in the day. Now we have our phone, but we all still look at our phone and can multitask now. It's like, no, keep talking to me. I'm just doing this thing. Whereas back in the day when you have an appointment and someone picks up a magazine,
It was like,
you read
this is
between
my
the
cue to
lines.
be quiet. Yeah.
Yes. Whereas we don't have that now, which is what you've implemented here. So in turn, I guess that gives the stylists an opportunity to switch off too and kind of be calm. So maybe if we had more of those things, then we would maybe be more like the beauty industry.
I don't know though. I
Do you
work with a
reckon-
lot
does
of
it
beauty
work?
girls, and they're just as high energy as we are. It depends on what type of beauty girls. I think
Yeah.
when you're in the brows and stuff like that, they're still very
Chatting
chatty and stuff.
Yeah.
It's different when you have a facial and
Okay.
a massage.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's because there is much in the brow industry. It's much smaller teams generally, I find, like generally like 1 and 2s and 3s, and that's about, like, it's not massive teams, that they need more connection too, because it's not, necessarily running big teams. I don't know what it is. I think there was just a movement and they've moved in the right direction.
Yeah.
I think that we see it because that may not necessarily be true, Jen. It's just because we see the different side
No,
of
that's
it
exactly right.
in who we've worked with.
And honestly, if it's not true and you believe otherwise, please do share your input.
I think with hair, I think also, with bigger teams and stuff like that, we can be tapped out more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so easy to tap out, isn't it?
And it's finding the time.
Yeah.
I think for everyone, it's finding the time. When I've gone to some events, these connections, there's a lot more humans. So I'm 38. In about 5 seconds, I'm 38. Still 37, so I'll just say 37. They're much younger than me. So a lot of people don't have kids yet either. So when I've gone to these spaces and I'm going to these spaces and having coffee, I'm the only one with children. So sometimes it's hard because of the way, and these catch-ups can be like 7 a.m. I'm like, 7 a.m. is hectic
We're
in my
in the
household.
thick of it at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
You know, so it also is depending on where people are in their lives, because I think young salon owners, young freelancers, it's a bit different because it is just there isn't the other noise of having big families to run as well. Whereas for us trying to find that time, it needs to be in the book.
Yeah.
And it needs to be like priority based on how we need our cup filled, because other things will come first.
Yeah.
And I think this is why I'm trying to keep it smaller, because I'm 36, but I don't have children.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting that you say that, because as being in that age bracket, I find that a lot of my friends and people within the community and other owners have got families. So and again with Main Union, I'm trying to gauge what day works best. And exactly to your point, no fucking day works best.
No. I'm like, as you were saying that,
get it
I'm
in the
like
calendar.
running it through my head as you were saying it. I was like, okay, well, a Monday works, but then I've got someone rising.
We
an
literally
afternoon's
sat
annoying.
this morning trying to do something. And it's like, can you do this time? No.
Can you do
this
that
time?
time?
No.
No.
Can you do this?
The
No.
commute.
Can you do this day? No. Can you do this day? No. Like, just trying to-
And I think too, especially for where my life is now with having so many children and having such a busy lifestyle, things have become really sacred to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, nothing after 7:30. Sorry, nothing after 7:30 because my sleep is really important now because it's the only way I function is getting up early with the kids. Otherwise I'm an asshole to them and that is not fair. And then Jen's like, I can do a Sunday. I'm like, Sundays are sacred. Nope. Like, so I'm actually putting strong boundaries into place as well. So you're like, I need that connection, but I can't do that day because that's my this day. Like it's an interesting struggle to try and find how it fits with all of the with all the parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so with Main Union, what I've in my head by listening to the feedback is saying, don't punish the people with trying to feel obliged to turn up to these things when life is so hectic. So we try and do this quarterly. And you know what? Sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But again, because it's not a big event, which are stunning, but they take so much energy, so much time. There's such an obligation sometimes.
People don't want big events. They want small
right.
connections.
Yep.
We found that like with our retreat, like all our girls, literally the best part of it was just sitting in our pajamas.
How cool
being in
is
the
that?
spa, hanging out, chatting, being in our pajamas, eating, getting up in the mornings, going for a walk at the beach. Like it's just like everyone, it's finding a space for them to feel like they can actually come down and in rather than out and pretend.
Not have to
You know,
feel
it's like
switched on.
no one turn to each other. The thing that I hate about church and I love everything is they have 30 seconds where you have to turn to the person next to you and say hi. I was like, I don't want to. This is an introverted's worst nightmare. Every week I'm like, hi, I'm really uncomfortable. I'll sit on the end so no one talks to me and I'll put the whole family next to me and I'll sit where no one can touch me. I just got to go to the toilet in this bit straight after worship. Because in spaces like that, it's like don't make people – if people towards the end of it will feel more comfortable and Jen and I have learned that with our teachings. But in that beginning point, it's just like I just want to shrink in here, but I still want to feel seen. I still want those. So quarterly is perfect.
Yep. And I think another huge thing that I have, maybe it's the age bracket, maybe it's listening to feedback, maybe we're just all getting old, who knows? But it's not, I'm so sick of everything that hairdressers seem to go to. It turns into a massive piss up.
Yeah.
And I was listening to podcasts previously and I feel exactly the same way about the non-drinking. Not saying it's a bad thing. You can do, everyone can do whatever they choose to do, but for our own health and wellness, there's so many of us that are choosing that that's a boundary. I actually don't want to get up and feel like crap the next day. I don't want to do this. And I'm finding that this is what I want to change with Main Union, realizing it can be quarterly, it can be a small catch up.
Yeah.
You don't have to
Can be morning.
You don't
It
have
can
to
be morning.
Yeah,
It
you
can
don't
be
have
coffee.
to get
It can
lit.
be breakfast. It can be breakfast. It doesn't have to be. Yeah.
That's right. Like,
And if you want it,
love
if you want to go to
brunch.
those things, that's totally fine. But there needs to be something for every.
I'm like,
different
I
family.
want to be in bed and like it is like, again, those things of finding like how is it going to fill someone's cup? And we're very conscious of that when we do the retreat. It's all about making the people that are there feel taken care of, just like people feel in our salon.
And it's really hard to do that when there are these extraordinarily huge events because there's 200-300 people. So it's about keeping it smaller. And literally this month, I mean, we had a Main Union event mid-December. I personally was like, no, I wasn't going to do it. And then through other guests of Main Union that I've connected with, they said, no, do it. And you know what? Who cares? Like if it's only a few people, just do it so then it doesn't get forgotten about.
Yeah.
Because this is my new baby. So it is easy to forget about it until it grows and the word gets out and people start speaking about it and people understand what it's about.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you want to like if you were obviously with a platform, if you're saying to people, this is the plan for this and this is what I want out of this, what does that look like?
Healthy connection.
Yeah, okay.
Within a hairdressing community that you feel safe enough to speak about the things that we were taught aren't polite to speak about, because they are the things that we keep inside and just eat us up. We was taught for our whole lives, don't speak about money, don't speak about team. In turn, I really want to get away from the fact that I'm just going to put it out there, you are not allowed to come to these events and bitch about other people.
Yeah.
No. That's ground rule. Absolutely not having that energy at Main Union. This is about health connection. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
It's not here about to bitch about your team.
What's your vision for it? Where do you want it to go? If you were looking at it in 5 years down the track, what are you doing?
I would like it to grow so I can have other people come in, other salon owners, and go interstate. Initially, I'm keeping it more Brisbane, or would like to keep it more Brisbane, Gold Coast based. And I say Gold Coast because so many people commute in between. And again, coming from New South Wales, it's not a big deal because like I said, this where I was in comparison to Sydney was 80 kilometres away. I wouldn't think twice about going and having dinner in the CBD.
Yeah.
You know, but here, everyone, you know, that time is sacred. So that's why I've kept it in a smaller vicinity. I would love to see that open up. I'd love to have other people that are able to help manage Main Union in other big cities and states, but still keep the soulfulness, the holistic growth, the holistic connection of Main Union.
Yep.
I really, really, really do not want to see it turn into the 300 people event.
Yeah.
And I think that's just probably for me as well. And again, a lot of the feedback from friends and salon owners that are in that same age bracket, and teach the younger generations that are coming through that it doesn't have to be big. You don't need a salon of 30, 40 people. You know, you don't have to just feel like you only can freelance. Teaching them about the different avenues and just, having healthy communication.
So if someone's like, I love all of this, how do they just start following you on Insta and then do you put events up? Are they ticketed events or?
So now I'm actually going to be going into ticketed events, but again, low cost because this is another huge thing. It's just expensive.
Yeah.
And we've also found like for really good uptake, someone needs to invest something themselves to actually, you know, commit to something.
To turn up, right? Exactly. So, you'll see it's main_union on Instagram, or you can email info@mainunion.com.au. But essentially, it's all Instagram based. I did have a Facebook page that I started, but then I was like, it gets lost.
Told you, Richard.
I don't get it.
We had this conversation this morning.
Facebook gets lost. No one cares.
Facebook is just like, I don't know. Like
Facebook's dead.
Like.
I'm going to be like Kylie Jenner now and everybody unsubscribes from Facebook. Told you. Thank you. He's
Sorry,
like, shut up. Completely agree. No one does anything on Facebook anymore.
I think until you get a huge following and a huge platform, like there's a lot of platforms on, there's a lot of groups on Facebook where it's New Zealand and Australia, say, you know, Australia wide. But again, it gets like the meaning of what you've created this for gets lost, I personally think. So, Instagram is one of those things. I mean, we're all visual.
We're always talking about how like we create more connection, how we support people and stuff like that. But I think you don't want it to be another thing that's on someone's to-do list either. Yeah. That they're like, oh, I must check into that because someone might need that conversation, or what has someone written something and no one's gotten back to it and stuff like that. Like I manage groups within our like programs that we do and stuff like that. So it's also very much about not making people feel like they need to get into a space too, especially when they're after a day of work, they're so tapped out.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So keeping it small, keeping it safe, holistic, keeping people connected, and letting them, if you want to turn up and you don't want to say anything, this is not like, it's not like an AA situation either, just saying. We're not going to have 20 people in a room just being like, what's your problem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Amy, and, I'm obsessive over.
Yeah.
But I think the big lesson to learn with anything like this, and we spoke about this, it reminds me of a situation we had when we were traveling last year, and you're sitting down, it's like, so how's everything going? Yeah, good.
Literally.
And it's like,
my God.
Really? It's been a bit hard for me. Oh, thank God, it's been really hard. But, it's like just be the person.
I'm very raw like that.
that
we went, when we were away, I was talking to a salon owner that I knew and I was like, how's everything? Amazing. Yep. Sounds great. Yep. Yeah. We downside. Yep. But it feels really good. And I was like, I can just give this back or I can just be super honest. And I was like, really? And I was like, feels a bit hard at the moment for us. And she was like, oh God, same. And I was like, oh, isn't that interesting? You put on a facade because it's easier and no one wants to feel like they're failing.
No.
Like no one.
Oh
and
my
that's
God.
why I'm so vulnerable on this podcast and go like, things hurt. And, if I could be even more vulnerable, I would. But I also still protect my environment as well.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing even with
You
Instagram.
have many people to protect too.
Yeah.
You have.
It's the same thing with Instagram. Like it's like you have to consider what you're putting out and what you're trying to get back from that. And if you're trying to get back, I need everyone to get in right now and tell me how great this is, and you don't get it, you're gonna go on a downward spiral. So what are you actually trying to get out of Instagram when you post something? Is it for and it's all of these things that we learn as we get older that we're like, yep, I see that now. Yep, I needed I needed the recognition, or that was very ego based. And it's very much about what we share, because I think things like social media and stuff can can be huge. I came off personal Instagram for about 8 months. I reckon I was off for.
Yeah.
Maybe even longer. But yeah, it's interesting, those different avenues too of going, where am I sitting? What do I need? And if it is, connection, and I need another salon owner that I can talk to about these things. I think I always say connection is really important. I have a beautiful group of women who all have salons on the coast that I feel very lucky to have, just being able to drop in there and be like, I'm really struggling. And there's been points definitely that I'm like, I'm really struggling. And then, one of my girlfriends, Brooke, she owns Paper Rock, one day she was like, gave me this whole download of how she thought of it. And I was like, it's exactly actually what I needed at that point. Thank you. It actually has made me come out of myself and have someone else's eyes on it. So I think those type of connections are really important, which is why we know with Salon Rising, that's really important as well. But it's all of those connections that are so important so that you don't feel so lonely. It's like we've always said it's like having a new baby and feeling really lonely.
And you're trapped in the house and you don't know if you're doing it right and you don't know if anyone else is struggling with the same thing.
I remember that. And then the first mothers group I ever held at my house, because I needed that. Like everyone came and didn't leave for 9 hours. And I was like, well, you guys are going to leave at some point. But everyone's just like, oh, thank God. And, just those little bits of advice and that safe space. So, yeah, I think it's really important that we have those things, because a shout out to my girls in my Boss Babe group, a group of very, very special women that, allow you to feel safe within that space to be able to, and I've got it in a lot of different avenues. I'm very lucky. But if you don't have it, these are the spaces that you go to.
And if you're looking for it, this is the perfect way to find that.
Yeah. Like moving up from New South Wales, I was like, what the fuck have I done? It's been so many days. I remember when I was living at my mum's house and she would just come in and she's like, what's going on? Because I would go from being so fun and just like, holding it all in to just absolute mentee B. And I was like, why did I come here? Why did this happen? And then you just have to remember, you chose this. I chose this, and all the positive reasons of why we made this move. But yeah, it's lonely. That is the biggest thing. The start of my career, I was able to make all these connections by, education and groups and working at different salons and being a part of different teams. So yeah, moving interstate in such a time where everyone was isolated.
Time,
and people really keeping to themselves. Understandably, totally get that. But yeah, I was like, wow, this is how I felt, and I would like to help other people not feel that way. Yeah.
And so she created Main Union.
Yeah.
Love that.
And the new
That's so
baby was
nice.
born.
Love that.
So we'll put all the details about Main Union in the show notes. Obviously, jump on. Instagram handle again was
Main_union.
Main_union. See what events are coming up, especially if you're in that sort of Brisbane area, and watch the growth from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks
you
so
for
much for
coming
coming on,
Thanks.
babe. We really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And if you're looking for connection, you know where to go now.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.